It is time for us to talk about fields. We've seen fields around in our previous videos, but we never really took the time to talk about them. So in this video, that's exactly what we're going to be doing. First, let's define what fields are. Fields basically allow us to handle data inside of our classes. Now, they're not the only tool that we have that allows us to handle data inside of our classes. We can also use properties for that, but we will be talking about properties in our next video. And in this video, just focus on the fields. So then you can think of fields as variables inside of your class that you have access to. Now, the important thing to know is that whenever you're creating fields, the best practice is to keep your fields private. The reason is because if another class meddles around with the fields and changes the values, that could actually break the functionality of the current class that has the fields. And that is very dangerous. So you want to keep your fields private. You can make them public by changing the access specifier. However, it's not recommended. The best practice is to keep them private. And, later on, you can use that information and then give the output based on that information out to other classes, but not allow other classes to change the value specifically. So let me go ahead and show you what I mean. I've already created a class called person, and within that, I will be creating 3 fields. So I will say string, and I will say SSN, then I will say string, and I will say passport data, then I will say string, and then I will say driver's license number. Great. So the thing to know is that fields are implicitly private. So if we actually go ahead and create, so if I say person, I use the new operator to instantiate the class to create the object instance. So I say person, and then I say person dot. You see I don't have access to any of these. Now, they're implicitly private. We can also explicitly say that they're private. Not really going to change much. However, now we explicitly are saying that all these are private. And see, still no access. So if I say dot, once again, you see no access. But if I go ahead and change these to public, you will see that I will have access to them. So, see? But this is very dangerous. Why? Because imagine if you are passing this person class to another method, and then that method takes in and says, hey, passport data is now, something else, or whatever it is, right? They changed the data, they modified the data. Then this person object has wrong password data. And what if this person, the person class inside, we have a method that, looks at the password data and based on that makes a decision, right? So it says if the password data is available, then, then this person is valid. Then if we change the password data, it will become invalid. And depending on the business requirements, I mean, this is just a hypothetical example, bad things might happen. Maybe the person will not get their order or something else would happen, right? So just because that simple mistake, very bad things could happen. I mean, depends on the business and depends how large the application is and how many people it's affecting, but simple mistake, as you see, that could affect. And that's why we are trying to keep our fields private. Or you can just say that. In this case, I'll actually leave them like this. So now you see I don't really have access to it. So it says is inaccessible due to its protection level. It's underlined red, so I cannot do this. So that's great. It protects us from any possible catastrophes that might happen. Now, also note that the naming of it, I have this underscore and then the name. That's actually a naming convention that a lot of people follow. You can have your own convention, but this is something that people follow for their private variables inside their classes, or just call them fields. So that's another thing. The other part of this is that in this example, obviously, I'm not taking into consideration any security reasons or anything else. I'm basically just putting this very sensitive data inside of a class. Obviously, there are much better ways of doing all this. This is just an example to show you, what can happen if you were to not follow the best practices, and also to show you why it is a best practice, right? So just wanted to make that disclaimer as well. But other than that, these are the fields, and now we'll be talking about properties in our next video.